Oh, you sound good. You sound nice.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It's always hit or miss with you, our producer says. Cuz sometimes
Oh,
you
really?
cuz sometimes
I,
you're too far away from your mic.
I don't know what the difference is today then.
Or maybe you're just right up on your mic. You ready to Oh, in the notes here, I love that we're color coding our notes, but did you write "Thank God it's the Illustrious Gentlemen" or did I do that before you jumped in?
No, I did that.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah, maybe we should change the name of the podcast. TGITIG.
Let's see if I can do this here.
Oh, shit. Someone downloaded the wallpaper screen. It's pretty good as long as you're not turning your head too much.
Yeah. I wish I could center it
Right, so I'm not looking at his.
so the super junk wasn't right in my face.
Oh, who are you kidding? That's where you want the super junk. Well, you could probably center it if you crop the image, but then you'd have to open a program, crop the image, re-upload
That's
it.
way too much work right now.
I'm more interested in super junk.
I'm on the companion, and all of the good shit's on my iPad.
Okay.
I found what I could.
All right. Well, thank God it's the Illustrious Gentlemen, episode 219. We got Jorge Jimenez Superman junk next to Scott's face for those not watching the feed. I don't know what to call it. It's not a show. It's a feed. It's a YouTube version of the podcast, a vodcast.
Yeah, this is less embarrassing than my house.
Right.
So I needed to put something up.
Well, there you go. All right. I'm sitting behind a blank chalkboard once again because I wrote something on there and my handwriting was so bad I erased it in shame and started sweating of embarrassment. But if you don't want to sweat of embarrassment, you can go to tigshow.com. That's where you can click on the merch link, pick up some shirts. We sold a couple shirts in the last 2 weeks.
What?
Nothing big. You can learn how to support the Patreon from there. All sorts of good shit. So hop over to tigshow.com, buy us around, make it good.
Good.
Live your best life ever.
There's a way to do that.
It
involves merch.
That's right. I'm wearing a shirt. You're wearing a shirt. We're all wearing shirts. It'll be anarchy. Speaking of anarchy, are you drinking today or is there going to be anarchy in the streets? My favorite sound. Oh, now that's my favorite sound.
What do you got?
I got a...
Other than the banquet.
Yeah, the banquet's sort of my... one thing I noticed when I got the banquet this week, I have small hands, and I'm like, oh, this can fits my hands better, so I put it up. The Coors Banquet can is taller than a regular 12-ounce can and skinnier.
Huh.
I always thought I was crazy, and then I did the math. So I'm a fan of the tall, skinny cans because, again, it helps out.
I like the banquet bottles.
Mm-hmm.
I like the shape.
Yeah, so do I.
Reminds me of, what is it, Red Spice?
Red Stripe.
Old Spice, Red Stripe.
That's right.
Yeah, Red Stripe. I couldn't find that. I was looking for that the other week.
Yeah, hooray for beer. Okay, so I have a Ballast Point Brewing Sculpin Grapefruit IPA. I got this because it's my
can art.
Yeah, it's my wife's favorite beer, and I don't think I've ever had one, but I enjoy hazies so much. This can't be much different than a hazy. So yeah, it's got like a little fish, flounder,
lionfish, right?
Oh, lionfish, you're right. I'm floundering right now. It is 7%, San Diego, California. Ballast Point ballast is something to do with boating.
Ballast, yes.
Balance, right?
Ballast isn't it the weight on boat?
Yeah, but it's the distribution of weight on a boat. Like my big belly is causing my back to hump a little bit, and that's the ballast point is off. It needs to be more in the middle and less in the front.
Gotcha.
This does not smell like a hazy. It smells like a grapefruit.
That's good.
Okay, what do you got?
I've got my eyes are so bad. Helton Brewing Company, boysenberry sour. Can you see it?
Not
Can you see it?
There you go. Yeah. Oh, it's got a. Oh, I like that can art. Is that why you bought it for the can art?
Probably I was looking for something that was not an IPA and was not a golden lager.
Yeah, you're into sours, as I learned last time
Um,
we were in
yeah, so
proximity.
whatever. Yeah, I like the can. It's a Rico-esque
Yes.
can design.
Well, you're already dropping hints on today's
6-7
program.
blah blah. This is another local one. I think all three of the ones I picked up on my last run were local beers. Helton, Phoenix.
Yeah, I've been to the Helton Brewing, the tap room. It's at 20 or like 30th Street and Camelback area for those in the Phoenix area. And the other thing I know about Helton is that they sponsor, or they did sponsor, like local skateboarders.
And I think this is a shrink wrapped label on the can.
That's a bummer.
It's plastic. It's got a good texture.
Oh.
I like it.
Yeah, maybe you should peel it off and put it on your iPad.
Ooh. Yeah.
All right.
I won't do that.
TikTok. You go first.
We need to put TikTok on the TikTok so all the kids tune in.
Yeah, I don't know if the producer has that much energy left in him to start a TikTok account. I'll have to ask him.
No, I don't want my kids watching this anyway.
No, it's bad enough.
Dad's embarrassing enough.
Yeah, my kids follow me on. They follow the TIG Show Instagram account, TIG_show on Instagram and Twitter as well. And so last week, I thought it was funny. I took a screenshot of me chugging from a bottle of wine while we were recording, and I put it up as a on the Instagram. And the first person to like it was my 18-year-old son, who thinks I drink too much. So
take that.
Cool. Little did he know it was 1:45 in the afternoon when I was chugging that wine.
Might as well be 11 p.m.
That's right. I'm on UK time. But yeah, at TIG_show on all social medias. Well, on 2 of the social medias. We're not going to start a TikTok unless you start dancing. But speaking of Ted Danson, why don't you lead us into TikTok?
All right. What am I going up to? It's been raining a shit ton this summer. We got.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we got a half an inch this morning.
That's what she said.
I feel bad for her. Driving one of the kids to school this morning, it was a little sketchy. Raining that hard. Yeah.
Was it so sketchy you had to drive the kids to school? Aren't there buses?
One of them made the bus. The other, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But yes,
we won't get into it.
It was necessary for me to do so this morning.
Okay.
It was touch and go there for a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you live, as we've chronicled, you live probably you probably live close to 30 miles away from me, even though we live in the same city essentially. And it was sprinkling this morning, and there's a couple puddles of water around. That was all we got.
Oh yeah, it was nutto here.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. I wonder if it has something to do with the mountains. You're coming right off the mountains, but the East Valley always gets way worse weather than anywhere else.
The North Valley always gets fucked.
So I wonder
whenever I see the news and it's flash floods, cars getting stuck and shit. It's always Deer Valley and Cave Creek.
Right, but both the East Valley.
But the heat bubbles were fucking real.
Yeah, so maybe it's because it's the edge of the heat bubble and you're right at the beginning of the valley, so you're just getting the first deluge before it spreads out.
Yeah, and also it depends on the time of year, right? And the weather pattern. So when stuff is moving north like it was this morning, I'm in the southeast, so I get that. When shit's during the monsoon is moving east to west, hopefully get a little bit of that when it gets to town.
Yeah, I had to go up to my parents have been out of town because that's what you could do when you retire. They took like a 6 week vacation or 5 week
Do you have a
vacation.
party?
No, I had to paint a mural. Uh, so people who were following me on social media 14 years ago
Fill the gin bottles back up with water.
saw me bitch about having to paint a mural. So they redecorated and I had to paint another mural with my brother last weekend. I don't want to get into it. It wasn't my best experience, but what I will say is that I was up there like 5 weeks ago, and it was pretty crusty out there. Everything was brown and dying, and it was warm and windy. And when I was up there last weekend, uh, there's grass in parts of the yard that I never have seen grass grow in before. There's knee-high weeds. Like, it's amazing. The desert gets a little bit of water, and even the drive between like Flagstaff and Phoenix now, it's all green instead of being all brown. It's like it just needs a little bit of water, but that sucks for them next summer because that's going to be fire fodder come May and June of next year.
Right. Yeah, they're not going to get the same water budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy the amount of rain that we've gotten over the entire state in like the last month.
I gotta say that people listen to this through their podcast app of choice aren't going to know what I'm talking about. But the creases in your shirt make it look like you're wearing a holster, like you're packing.
No, it's just my big titties, and then part of that it might be these. Whatever.
Now I don't know. Every time I was just reminded of that every time I look at you. I thought I was watching Law and Order or something.
Oh, okay. Dun dun dun. Yeah, so like most people who make small talk with each other once a week, we talked about the weather.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Also, traffic is bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't ever drive in the freeways. The farthest I drive is 1.7 miles. Unless it's further.
See the ball game last night?
No. I assume we're still in last place. They're actually pissing me off because they won a couple games.
I'm doing stupid stuff now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Oh, did they? I don't know. I don't know what they're on pace for yet.
Yeah, I don't think
Certainly
they're
their worst season, I believe.
I don't think they're going to set a record though. And if you're going to suck this bad, be a record holder.
Yeah.
So TV wise for me, I don't know why. This is what happened so a couple weeks ago, I was drinking and my wife fell asleep on the couch. And when Ted Lasso ended, I started watching Schmigadoon, which is a musical. I talked about that. So this week after Ted Lasso, when my wife fell asleep on the couch, I started watching SEE, with Jason Momoa. Somebody's doing something outside with Jason Momoa's.
Mm-hmm.
And so Apple TV Plus.
Loves that brunch.
Yes. And it's set in the future, but it's a future that we've reset because of a pandemic / dystopian thing. So it's hundreds of years in the future. Everyone who survives this unnamed global pandemic, the like 1% of the planet that survives it, all are blind. And so now hundreds of years later, everyone's blind. And so if someone is born with sight or even rumored to be born with sight, then they're like labeled like a witch. And so we got to hunt them down. So it's basically about Jason Momoa essentially being Conan through it. Like he's dressed in like furs and just fucking people up. Yeah, but he's still fucking people up with like an axe and shit. It's interesting enough, but it's funny because I'm pretty sure I didn't research this, but I'm pretty sure it's created by the guy who did the Daredevil Netflix show. So I think he just felt no, Stephen Knight.
Oh,
maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know, Stephen Knight.
Now that you said Drew Goddard, I think I'm wrong. Anyways, the titles are very similar as well. Remember in Daredevil, everything was shape-based and like kind of mimicked.
That makes sense.
Right. So C is like that too. Everything looks like a wire sculpture. And it looks like sonar, radar, whatever DAR you choose. But yeah, parts of it are like, it's oddly enough, the thing you have to let go of most is that in certain scenes, he's just fucking dudes up. And in my head, I'm like, how did he know that guy was there? I mean, there's so much noise going on around him. How did he know that one guy was right there?
It's like that old man in the Don't Breathe 2 trailer.
Yeah, exactly like that.
That's all I know about that stuff.
Yeah, I want that dude to turn down Avatar 2 through 4 because he's making the Don't Breathe franchises.
I thought they were already filmed.
I don't know. I saw someone someone posted an image from a tweet from 2013. It said Avatar 2 coming next spring. So, anyways, so yeah. So, anyways, I watched the first season of See. It's 8 episodes. Second season drops the end of this month, and it's interesting enough. It's like Game of Thrones with a bunch of blind people, but again, Jason Momoa just fucking people up. Can you hear that?
I can hear that.
Okay. I don't know what's happening. I do know that my brother, who's currently through circumstances that he can't control, is currently living in the unit above us for like a week, just staying there. It's like a staycation in the next door house. And he's home today. So he could just be, I don't know, practicing the steel drums. I'm not quite sure. But I liked See. It was fun. Lots of fun action.
Cool.
Jason Momoa goes full on like it's one of those power moves in like a movie or TV show. Spoiler alert for anyone who wants to watch it. Okay, mute. Anyways, so I'm getting them time to mute it. So someone can see. One of his kids can see. So that's why he's protecting them. So at one point, he's fighting he's about to murder a fucking room full of dudes as violently as you can imagine. And he tells the one person in the room that can see, he says, close your eyes. And then he just fucking massacres. There's some brutal shit in this movie. Like, if you wanted to see a dude get a sword shoved down his throat in slow motion, this is the show for you. If you want to see a human being's face ripped from bottom jaw to top jaw, this is the show for you.
Well, yeah, it makes sense, I guess. I imagine it would be easier to murder somebody if you didn't have to watch it happen.
Yeah.
No.
That's how I do it. When I go out, I blindfold myself.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what
you should do. All right. So
whatever.
So See on Apple TV, and also
better than it sounds.
Also, Ted Lasso leveled up this week. So I was a little down, not down, but a little underwhelmed with Ted Lasso. The first 2 episodes of this new season really leveled up this season.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have yet to check it out.
Well, you got to get Apple TV, which you have a free subscription for, so it really costs you nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you did. I don't know how long you've had your iPad, but now we're digressing. We're digressing junior high here. What have you been watching?
I finished Veep last night. Very, very funny show. I wanted it to end the way Seinfeld ended, with everybody in prison. It does not, even though they certainly deserved it more than anybody on Seinfeld did. But yeah, good show. Check it out. If you can stomach that sort of stuff. Knowing that this probably actually happens.
So one reason I liked West Wing was that even though I don't believe government is that efficient or ever was that efficient or worked that well, I did like to see the scenes where they would govern and discuss topics and shit like that and handle things. Does Veep ever do that, or is it always just the joke, the satire?
No, it's always about getting what it is they wanted and the machinations behind that. And there's one character that starts out, it doesn't matter. There's one character that ends up as vice president, and he's sort of like a Trump analog that sort of just fails his way all the way to the top. And he keeps, because he's a moron, he just keeps getting embraced by more and more people. Until eventually he's at the top. And it was triggering in a lot of ways. after like the last 5 years. So yeah, but very, very, very funny. I saw it on Twitter. I don't know who it was, somebody I don't follow, but I had seen it that listing shows that they wished they had worked on by decade. I think the 2010s they had listed Veep for the 2010s, and after watching that, I can imagine that would have been a pretty fun writer's room.
Yeah, I love the idea, as you know, because I'm in a studio now, but it's always been a dream to work in a studio of like 20 people. It's just sort of that energy just flowing around. You
Right.
know, I mean, Gonzo and I got energy, but how much energy do two dudes have when one of them is me? You
Right.
know, so like he's doing his best, but the other guy's me. So, but like I imagine a writer's room, maybe just from watching 30 Rock, but I imagine a writer's room being like the coolest fucking place in the world to work. Except you probably get treated like shit and don't get paid very well and probably eat a lot of shitty sandwiches.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of my few dreams, is to sort of just be a fly on the wall in a writer's room, or better yet, to, you know, be a part of the machine. But yeah, I can't imagine a more sort of dynamic and creative work environment than that.
Yeah, and the best part about being in a writer's room is you can just contribute like magic. You just got to be 1/10 of what happens. You know, so it's like
Right.
you don't have to be able to solve the problem. You could just have a witty remark that is going to kill, and then someone else has to get how to get from scene A to scene B. You killed with your one liner or whatever, you know, or your yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if like he, you know, eats a sandwich, deconstructs a sandwich while everyone else is talking? Like that's just funny shit. Like a dude just eating the shitty red onions one at a time, licking the mayo off, like sucking it. Yeah, disgusting shit like that because mayo and red onions are disgusting. Uh, but yeah, I didn't. That's pretty much all I watched. We watched. That doesn't matter. We watched Collateral last night because I'd never seen it, and I figure
Mm.
I should start watching movies because I have HBO Max and has every fucking movie known to man. And I was just like, it was fine. It was a Michael Mann movie. Lots of long shots. Lots of looking at people's ears. You know, lots of just like misframed shots. You
I
know,
don't you think Tom Cruise was so brave though for wearing
yeah,
a wig?
yeah, going gray like 16 years ago, 17 years ago. When I was watching it, I told my wife, like, yeah, I never saw this, but it's not that old. It's like 2004. And then we're watching it and they're using like a gray, like iPad that's like the size of like a brick. And their phones are all flip phones and shit. And then so I started like thinking back, like 2004. I was like, holy shit, I was still in my 20s in 2004. Like, I guess that was a long ass time. I had a 1-year-old in 2004 who's now a grown man. So but when you get to be my age, 2004 seems like it's a couple of years ago. You know, Elon Musk was going to the moon in 2004. In my mind, whatever. I wish he would
I
have
don't, I don't think he's ever gone to the moon.
fucking stay there, launch an Audi into space. Okay. Anything else, or do you want to move on?
No, I don't have anything else.
All right. I love this. This is 2 weeks in a row, and you already sort of came up with an idea for our next show.
Oh my god,
So
what's happening?
you're really jumping into this into the new you, and I love it. I'm happy for it because this is the second week in a row. You were like, let's do this. And I was like, yes, let's do that.
It's gonna
So,
come down at some point.
yeah. So, why don't you take over with the notes that are in red?
Uh, that's why I color coded them.
Yeah, I know. It's smart. I like it.
I don't know how I stumbled upon this. I think I saw somebody post theirs on Twitter at some point, but I went back and dug up my my lame ass influence map off of my defunct DeviantArt account. Yeah, so I thought, oh, maybe we should make a new one for the show and just see. We'll compare and contrast. We'll see how we've changed, how we've grown, possibly how we've regressed, or how we've stayed the same.
Yeah, I love it. So when you pulled yours up, I was like, how the fuck am I ever going to find mine? And then, yes, I went to DeviantArt as well. The only saving grace is I stopped posting there like 5 years ago,
Yeah.
so it was really only like a couple pages back.
Yeah, it didn't take me long to find.
But man, looking through that DeviantArt posts from like 5-6
No
years ago,
bueno.
what a fucking dork. And because I logged in to get this fucking influence map, the other day I got an email from DeviantArt. You have a new message. One person liked one of your things, and I'm like,
Delete.
are we going to send an email every time someone likes
That's
something?
big news.
It should be that person should be on a watch list. If they like any of my posts from like 2012, put that bitch on a watch list.
The other day I came across ArtStation, and because Clayton Henry posts on ArtStation.
Yeah, I have an ArtStation.
Some of his stuff. Do you put anything on there?
No, I did. I set it up and I loaded some shit in the gallery, and it never got traction. So it's if you want.
Yeah, that led me to we're this going off the rails fast. That led to my Twitter post this morning.
That's what I was
asking about websites.
That's what I thought. A lot of people that I see posting on like Portfolio Day and shit on Twitter, they link to an ArtStation gallery because it's free and it's there. There's no ads. You can't do that. You were about to draw. Oh, I can't say what you're about to draw, but you're about to blow up bigger than my belly. You can't be having an ArtStation site.
An unemployment check, I think.
Right. But what I was going to tell you privately is what I will tell you now publicly so that listener can hear. You can always just, if you don't want to pay for a website, just pay for the domain and direct it to like a Tumblr or direct it to like a Flickr gallery or something.
Right. I have a domain that I have purchased.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. It feels like if you're serious, you've got your website. But also, if you're going to have all the other things, if you're going to have the Patreon, if you're going to have your ArtStation and the Twitter and all the shit, then what the fuck are you putting on Patreon? Who's going to pay you for anything if you're also using all of these other things?
Good question.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't know. The website. The website.
I feel like we're in a uniquely fuckable position.
The website for this The website for this program is a domain that I own, redirecting to a Tumblr that I update.
Tumblr.
Yes. But
you're the one still using it.
But if you go there, I'm sure you don't have a Tumblr account, or if you do, log out of it at some point. Go to tigshow.com. I don't know if it looks like a Tumblr. I think it just looks like a blog, which is all we need. I just post the videos and shit.
I'll click on the link in this show's description.
There you go. So I did like that you mentioned here in your notes that it's not really a Hall of Fame. It's current, right? And I think when I did this in 2010,
yes,
I think I thought a bit of who's my favorites, what do I think about all the time, not what do I think about when I'm working.
Right. I wanted to set up some parameters,
please,
for this map.
Please
like you said, it's not. We've done the Mount Rushmore episode. It's not your Hall of Fame, which is, all time. A career recognition, and right. Instead this is the weekly power rankings. So seeing who's rising and who's falling right now in this moment. So I took it as, who do I either consciously or subconsciously think about when I'm working? Right.
Yes.
And I think, what did I put here? So when looking for inspiration, what are you reaching for? Like when I had an office, I would just keep a stack of shit next to my desk. Batman Black and White, my Art of Hellboy, just random one-off floppies. But whatever was tickling my funny bone at the moment was going there.
Yeah, like there's I actually put probably way too much thought into as deadlines slip away from me. I probably put way too much time and thought into this. But like maybe my first or maybe my second, or when I'm a colorist in my top 3 current colorists is not in, spoiler alert, is not in my 2021 influence map because I don't color like they do. I don't think I can really color like they do, but I love what they do. It's just not what I. It's not what I lean towards or what I think I can do. Uh, not to say that I don't think I could do it if I studied it and worked at it and that kind of shit, but it's just not. It's not where my aesthetics lean. So yeah, I think this is going to get interesting. Uh, but yes, looking through old DeviantArt account was fucking
That was a
like.
nightmare.
I wish there was a way you could put on that page just like archived. Like we're not going to update this. This is not new shit. Everything you're looking at is like 10 years, 15 years old. Like everyone looking at my DeviantArt should take that into account of that how old it is, and maybe go to super75studios.com.
Yeah, I should Google myself, and if that's one of like the top 5 things that pops up, I should just go on and nuke the account.
Yeah, because now it's all furries and fucking animaniacs. That's not the right term.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure several years ago, at the end of my day job, I went on a work computer, and it gave my computer a virus at work. I'm pretty sure DeviantArt did that.
That's what DeviantArt gave your work computer the virus.
I'm positive, because as soon as I visited that site, the computer went down. So I don't know what people are putting on this fucking thing, but it's always felt really just like borderline sketchy DeviantArt.
Yeah, you could get a lot of like dirty photos on DeviantArt if that's what you're into.
And I understand the whole art thing and its expression and blah de blah, but I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't. When I type in werewolf boobies, I don't need 100,000 search results.
You just need one to get you through the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like in Love Actually, where the guy's working at the gallery and it's just close-ups. I think it's Love Actually, just close-ups of dudes like asses and like balls. Pretty sure it's Love Actually. Anyways, let's move on to Scott Godlewski's 2010 influence map.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and post these. We don't have to. We don't have to describe. We don't have to describe every photo. I'm going to post these on the website. But let's just look at this, and then if there's anything that just jumps out at you as being so far, because there were some on mine that I was like, I can't believe I fucking put this down there in public. Yeah. Is there anything that grabs you as something that like, what the fuck was I thinking, or was I? I think I put some stuff on mine to be cool. So yeah, I don't know. Like. Yours seems pretty good though. There's nothing super embarrassing about yours.
I can't believe I put Frank Lloyd Wright on mine. Like,
yeah, but
I don't know what the fuck that's about. I like a lot of his stuff. Because I'm a big fan of straight lines.
Well, the image,
one, because they're aesthetically pleasing, and two, because they're easy to draw.
Yes.
And so yeah, a lot of his stuff in the Art Deco style. But is it an influence on me? Is it an influence? No.
I don't know. I've seen some of your interiors you're doing for the Hall of Justice, and there's some fucking loopy shit and some rounded corners and some, I think maybe it seeped in more than you thought.
I don't know. I think it's weird.
I'm a little surprised by Rizzo on here. Rizzo.
Yeah. I at the time also, so he's on here, and I've got Paul Pope on here too.
Yes.
And this was during Wednesday Comics, so I was being exposed to
new
things
people
I would not normally. Right. Yeah, so that's interesting. H.P. Lovecraft. You're
just a fan of tentacle porn, and you didn't know how else to phrase that.
Right. And while I still enjoy his stuff, knowing that he was a huge racist dampens my enjoyment a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to get to, I don't want to get too political, but on my current influence map, I'm just taking the creative endeavors into it and not personal politics or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, his goes beyond personal politics
Right.
into straight.
I look. I just enjoy Hitler's paintings. What else have I got? Oh, Mark Schultz, who at the time was probably a bigger influence on me. I think he might be the prettiest traditional inker I think I've ever seen.
He's very Al Williamson's.
He does a lot of dry brush stuff too, which I always thought was really nice. But I have gotten away from that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. I'm just fuck it. You can't see this thing. Nobody can see this, so I'm just gonna list off the ones that I put on the map.
Okay.
Okay. So my biggest one was Sean Murphy, which 2010
at the time was your hugest. You
right.
were well on your way to being a Sean Murphy clone in 2010.
And this was pre, like, big time Sean Murphy stuff. This was pre Batman. This is pre whatever the fuck else he had done.
This was Constantine. This was maybe American Vampire miniseries that he did. This was about that, right?
Yeah. So he was the biggest one. I have the next couple biggest were Mike Mignola and Kevin Nolan. I've also got, like I said, Frank Lloyd Wright. I've got Norman Rockwell on here, who's still my favorite painter. I know dick about painting, so maybe that would change if I knew anything at all. I've got Jim Lee, like I said, Paul Pope, Eduardo Rizzo, Frank Quietly's on there, Stan Winston, because I just still probably Stan Winston's not a conscious influence, but certainly like in my Copperhead days, creature designing and stuff, it's always thinking about how you're going to get an actor inside of this thing. I'm missing something. Oh, Shyamalan. Yeah. So this is this is a weak ass map. And but for the time, I guess it was okay. But even then, I think I'm probably reaching for things like certainly putting Frank Lloyd Wright on there, but probably also Lovecraft too. Is like, look how
also the way it works,
well rounded I am.
Also, the way this particular influence map works is it's squares, and you can use as many as you want or as few as you want, up down to 1 inch square.
Right.
And you gave Frank Lloyd Wright twice as much space as you gave Mark Schultz.
Yeah.
And twice as much space as you give Frank Quietly.
I can't get back into my 2010 mindset of how I was working this thing either. I certainly gave it a lot more thought this time around.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. So, look at last note before we move on to your current one is I think your three biggies on this in order, Murphy, Nolan, and Mignola are were perfectly correct. My brother is just straight up fucking with me right now. They're dead on as to who.
Is that Morse code?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is he chained to a water heater?
Sounds like smoking a cigar. But yeah, so I think your big three at that point in your career were very much your big three. But nowadays, and I think they reflected your work then. And then when I look at your current influence map, it very much reflects your work, although there's still a couple question marks on here for me. But why don't you let's talk about these in order of the biggest, girthiest, largest to smallest. So this is now we're going to move into Scott Godlewski's 2021 influence map. Who's your number one?
My number one is my boy Johnny Timms on the new Superman.
Now, were you following John before you had to follow him on Young Justice? Or?
I was not aware of him at all. I have talked to my therapist about following him on Young Justice and how fucking perfect he was for that book.
Your therapist is like, look, dude.
I have spent money getting over how how I'm not as good as John Timms. Yeah.
Yeah, if I was your therapist, I'd be like, I think we need to meet twice a week because this shit's going backwards. Yeah. So, what is it about John Timms that you love? I mean, he's obviously a great cartoonist.
I think he might have the most dynamic stuff in monthly comics. He's like he's to me, he's almost like a monthly Eric Canetti. He uses the same sort of proportions and perspective and angles and sort of dynamicism, but it's it's streamlined and it's pared down to be able to put out every 30 days. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's got so much energy and it's got so much life. And I've learned a lot from the line that he uses. The word that pops into my head most often is gestural. So when his ink line almost sort of it feels like it kind of just bounces and plays and just it looks like he doesn't put down a line that he erases. Like everything is just sort of natural. It looks easy. That's what I thought a lot about Murphy's stuff back in the day. It was so like messy and sketchy, and your brain goes, "Oh, how fucking hard can that be?" You know, it looks like crap, but it's arranged and built in a way that it takes more practice and talent than you could ever have.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, his finished stuff does look like everyone else's layouts. Like he keeps the energy all the way through the inks, where everyone else loses it. No one's inks are as energetic as their layouts, but these do look like it looks like it came fully formed onto the page.
Yeah, he makes a lot of choices that I would describe as brave and things that I wouldn't be able to do. I remember when I got comps for one of my Young Justice issues that he had done the cover for. I sent you an image. I was like, I would never have the courage to make this line on the face where it sort of implies a shadow for the nose, but isn't an actual shadow. I can't do that shit. My brain won't let me. And that's what he does. It just feels effortless, and I'm totally envious.
Yeah, and as we move here forward here, especially in your first, let's say three guys here, I can see how they've influenced your current work, all for the better. So let's move on to number two. You have is that Clayton Henry that
It
previously
is
Clayton Henry.
Clayton Henry. Yeah, I used a clip of his digital first flash issues that he had done with Gail Simone. Uh, I think my natural line is closest to what Clayton does. I think he does it so well that I purchased his Procreate brush off of his Gumroad page, because if you use the same tools, you draw
Right.
the same way.
Yeah. That's why I
Yeah,
use manga deleter nibs because that's what Sean Murphy used.
right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the reason I bought a fucking iPad. You know.
It's fuck.
So
Wow.
yeah, I think he's just great. He might be um, the most underrated uh, guy in comics, to
Yeah.
my mind.
Yeah, I'll agree with
And
that.
I think in my notes here, down here, I think I had um, he's the best digital line in comics. I think it is. I don't know. It's this weird conversation I keep having with myself in my head. If digital comic book inking can ever be held to as high an esteem as traditional inking, and I don't know that we're ever going to get to that point, but I think he's the closest to making the case for it's possible.
Yeah, I think his work is super close to his traditional and his digital work are very similar. Where I think a lot of guys go, like especially a lot of guys like me, like we go ham with the digital work because you can do everything and it takes restraint to make it the right way. And I overdo it way too much. Uh, and a lot of guys I think overdo it way too much. But he is always super constrained. Like if he didn't know any better, you would just think he worked traditionally. Like he's a guy that I look at, and it's not apparently clear, abundantly clear that he works digitally, especially on
Yeah,
a
I
tiny,
could see
tiny
that.
fucking iPad.
I think he balances everything so well. He's got uh, it, his lines are real clean, but they don't lack the energy, right? It's still built in a way that sort of jumps off the page. He cartoons, but not so much that it's silly. Everything's just great. He spots his blacks super well. He doesn't use a whole lot of them, but when he does use them, it adds so much depth and so much weight. Just looking at like that shadow on the Adams right arm back there, just it. Yeah, his spot blacks are probably some of the best in comics right now. So I don't know. I fucking love the guy, and if you're not reading whatever he's doing, then you're missing out. He
Yeah,
doesn't do enough. He should
yeah,
be on everything.
right. So for listener to recap, John Thames is currently drawing Superman, Son of Kal-El, and Clayton is currently drawing a
I think Shazam comes out this month.
Shazam miniseries or Shazam prestige book or something like that. All right,
So I will be picking both of those up this weekend.
let's move on to number 3. Who, if we had done this influence
Sure.
map 2 years ago, would have been number 1.
Oh,
I bet.
yeah, I'm sure he would have. Yeah,
Yes.
Mr. Jorge Jimenez.
Yes.
Um, uh, maybe the most talented digital artist in comics,
Right.
and certainly the best looking.
Yes. As a human.
Dude's a fucking fox.
Yeah. He is. He runs around in like he's like ripped, but he's got like a swimmer's ripped body, and he just wears Superman like tank tops all the time.
Yeah,
That's how I picture. I picture him running around wherever he lives, Spain or maybe South America, wherever he lives. I picture him just running around in just Superman tank tops and like 4-inch seam shorts. Like like I like 5 inches like the summer look. I rock 7s because I got thighs. Everything goes to my thighs. I assume he's rocking like 1975 Adidas runner shorts, and they look, and I'm sure it looks fantastic.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's sporting the Larry Bird basketball shorts.
Yeah, and I'm here for it. Yeah. So earlier when I mentioned Clayton Henry looks almost like a traditional guy. If you didn't know any better, Jorge Jimenez has full on embraced digital and
Oh
used
yeah.
all of its tools to maximum effect.
Yeah, and it's almost. I don't know. I have had this conversation with other people. It's almost like magical the kind of results that he gets with his brushes. He uses all of them. I don't know, like in his brush palette, I don't know how many different ones he's using, but he knows how to use every single one of them when to the best of the most effective that they can be. And it's just how the guy puts out a book every 30 days doing that much work is, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, so I fuck around with a lot of brushes to see what they do, but I do it on the page and I'm doing sparse pages and shit like that. He's doing the most dynamic Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri shit that was being done in the 90s, but with full backgrounds and with 30 characters a page. And, especially when he's on Justice League. Now he's, for our listener, now he's currently drawing Batman.
Yeah, dropping those grays in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good Lord.
Stunning.
It's amazing. But yes, 2 years ago, he would have been number one. I don't know why I've sunk him to number 3, probably because I've gotten away from using those gray tones in my shit. Like I think
Yeah.
I did that for like a year and
Yeah.
a half
I,
with
I, I think
not stellar results.
I think most colorists would thank you for that. But to be fair, even though we're going by number here, your 2, 3, 4, and 5 take up the same amount of space on your gradient
Hmm.
map or on your influence map. So it's almost like a four-way tie. Uh, let's move on to number 4. This is gonna be a long episode. You're all welcome. Let's move on to number 4. Interesting that you chose an image of Spider-Man to portray this artist, but sure, go ahead.
Uh, I think because I think maybe he's getting stronger.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, I do see that you weren't as high on this guy when he was doing the book he was most famous for, but you're pretty high on him the last couple of years.
I will also preface this by saying that I don't own a single issue of any of his things.
Well, you're not getting invited to Ryan Con 2022.
But yeah, Ryan Otley's my number 4, and the note I jotted down here is that he's this generation's Jim Lee. I think he's the guy I think of when I think of like power superhero comics. You know, when I think of balls out action and big characters and that sort of shit. And I'm sure that's in no small part, you know, because of Invincible and the content, or, you know, the direction, what he was given to do.
Right.
But also it wouldn't have been what it was.
Yeah, he's giving a Brian Hitch style book, but to cartoon. Like if Eric Larson had drawn the Authority or something, he's given that like a cartoonist who's drawing widescreen epic books.
Yeah, he's almost an Eric Larson-y sort of
Yes, that's
figure builder.
when you said Jim Lee, my first thought is no, he's Eric Larson.
But he Eric Larson went
Don't talk shit
a
about Larson.
different direction.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think Otley is cleaner and tighter and more. He's more well put together. He's not interested in the experimentation of line. Like Larson feels like he almost is sort of going in a Frank Miller kind of trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see that with Otley. I think he's just yeah, he's just getting deeper and better in what he was already.
Yeah, it seems like what Jorge Jimenez is to DC Comics, Ryan Otley is to Marvel Comics. Like their main big, put him on the biggest book. You know, try to, you know,
sure. Yeah, but I feel like he's not one of those guys that has the line that I think Marvel is kind of looking for right now. He's not in the imminent family tree of influence.
Right, so he stands out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then let's move on to number 5, who was on your previous list.
5, Kevin Nolan, again, just because just super pretty. I like his line work a lot. He probably, other than Mignola, probably spots blacks better than anybody else. His sense of weight is great. And I don't know how much of a current influence he is on me. This might be just it's
a nostalgia pick.
Yeah, I guess that's a good word.
You're picking him up for his last couple of years on his contract just because he's got a big name. And
Right, because of what he's done.
Yeah, you want
to pay him for what he's done instead of what he's going to do.
Right, you want him in the locker room. Right. Although he could probably still draw circles around 99% of anybody on either of our maps. But yeah, I look at him as being the consummate. Whenever people call inkers tracers, and then inkers are like, we don't trace, we embellish and make better. He comes to my mind because he will make. I have books that he has inked that has made them better.
Sure.
Like he will take a C-level artist and make it an A-level book.
Yeah, we were talking about writers' rooms earlier, and this is like being in Sorkin's writing room, and you bring him the script. He's like, oh, good, this is great. I'm just gonna give it a once over,
Right.
and then it makes it to air, and there's nothing of yours left.
Right. Yeah. 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 He's great, and he's super nice. We exchanged a couple DMs not that long ago.
Oh,
I
nice.
tried to entice him to come out to Acme a couple of years ago, and he's like, "I'm not interested in flying to fucking Arizona for one
Yeah,
weekend,
who
but
is?
thank you." But most people don't even respond. Like we had a dialogue. Nice fella, that Kevin Nowland. All right,
That's right. He's still now.
roll on, because you just mentioned this guy 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, Mikey Mignola,
Yes.
the scrappy young artist. And this is where I get into specifics, is that it's his earlier stuff
Mm-hmm.
that intrigues me the most. When he's using more lines, when everything isn't just composition and shape based.
Yeah.
Yeah, the his infamous X-Force issue.
Beauty.
Yeah, just great, just great.
Yeah.
I like a lot of it. I like the I don't know. I like the weird juxtaposition of him over popular IP stuff.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. That was a fun time for him when he was kind of just bouncing around for a while before he went Hellboy full time. All right, number
Yep.
7.
7. I went another era specific thing. This is X-Men Joe Mad stuff. Yeah, the astonishing X-Men stuff, that mini Age of Apocalypse shit has been stuck in my skull for the last little bit. And it's weird. And I think the note that I made, where was it? Oh, that he might be to me what Liefeld's New Mutants is to you. Just sort of just energy. You know, it's just sort of in your face, just crazy sort of shit. And it was, I was being a Leaf fan, you know, it's all the extra lines all over the place. It's all the posing. It's all the, yeah, but this was something totally different. And it, yeah.
Yeah, the thing I remember most
Great.
about Joe Mad is he followed my 2 favorite X-Men artists of all time, and at first I was like, fuck, this manga bullshit. I don't like this shit. Everything's I used to think he was like silly putty. Everything was soft and floppy. And then after about like a 10 issues or so, back when artists worked for like 30 issues on a book, after like his first year, I loved it. And then the more he pushed it, I was actually into it. Like the more weird shit he did, I was definitely into it. So he definitely won me over. And I think he probably started drawing X-Men when he was like 17, which is another fucking bummer. He's probably the same age as me.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. I think I saw some YouTube interview with him not too long ago, but like he had done some fill-in issue of something. He was like 19 working in the Marvel offices.
Yeah.
He was like photocopying pages or something. He asked his boss, "Can I just take a few of these home, to practice on?" And he brought them back, and they were like, "You want to do a issue of fuck what number whatever?"
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that'd be cool. And then it was off to the races.
Yeah. And now we have 20 movies of fuck what. All right. Let's move on to your weird. Now we get into your weird phase.
Weird phase.
8, 9, and 10.
Yeah. So I think I initially had Stan Winston again in this role, but he's not living in my brain currently. But I just did a whole series rewatch of Derek, and I watched Afterlife earlier this year, and it really helped me sort some shit out. So I think Ricky Gervais might be the most talented screenwriter working today, and I have a big interest in screenwriting. That's personally, when I sit down and write, that's how I like to write. That's the format I like to write in. It's it doesn't put any pressure on me to do anything I wouldn't naturally do. So I appreciate that about the screenplay format. And so, yeah, I love the guy. I think he's super fucking funny. I think he's the kind of person most people should aspire to be. And big Ricky Gervais fan. So check out all of his shit. Most of it's on Netflix. Maybe except for Extras. That wasn't very good.
Well, just by the title alone, it had very little to do with him and more to do with other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Number 9, Mr. Spielberg, because Jaws might be my favorite movie of all time. And he was a Phoenix kid, so he's got that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And number 10, I've got, again, era specific stuff. Jim Lee made my list again in this capacity. This is X-Men Series 1 trading cards from 1992.
That shit lives rent free in your brain all the time.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be drawing comics if it weren't for this card set.
Now, I appreciate that for your Mignola square and your Jim Lee square, you chose the greatest comic book character outside of Hellboy of the last 30 years. Nathan Dayspring Summers.
You didn't get to see a lot of Jim Lee cables.
Oh, he's good at it, though.
And I remember carrying this card around in one of those little plastic card protectors in my pocket because I thought it was so fucking cool.
Yeah, he drew a rad ass one. I don't remember which issue of X-Men it was, but it was during the Extinction Agenda crossover. He drew a fucking badass cable on a cover. I mean, he just draws a badass cable because he draws a badass everything. But yes.
Yeah, it was coincidence in that regard.
Oh, I thought you did it to be cute.
No, I was not intending. I never intend to be cute.
Well, you can't help it. All right, so your current influence map shows your progression into digital art and into big 2 art. I think that this is more. A lot of your choices are more mainstream and less sort of indie.
Big 2 superhero centric.
Right, which is apt for your current work environment. All right, man. I dig it. I'm a big fan of everyone on this list. Yeah, can't complain. I'm not a big, I don't know a lot of Ricky Gervais. I guess I should investigate. But the rest of these all hold up and are very solid.
Yeah, let's get into your 2010 map. This is fascinating.
Oh, so one thing before we move on to my embarrassment of 2010, this is what I call this. You had 3 holdovers, correct?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And they were
Nolan, Mignola, and
Lee.
Yeah, technically.
Well, yes, technically. Okay. All right. So in 2010, my influence map, again, I think I was, because we posted and I'm going to post these publicly as well. They're going to be on the Tick Show site. I'll put them on all our social medias. But I feel like when I did this, I was still trying to be cool. This reeks of someone who's trying to let other people know that he's into cool shit. Because Jack Kirby takes up 1/4 of my influence map.
Interesting. We've discussed this.
Yeah, and it's and I always defend these kind of things by saying it's not necessarily Kirby, it's people Kirby influences. Bruce Timm, Mike Oeming, even though they're on my list as well.
Right. This is Hall of Fame.
This Hall of Fame shit. And it's definitely like I want people to like me shit. So my influence map from 2010, the biggest square is Kirby. The second biggest square is Oeming, which I've said on this podcast before, Powers is what got me back into comics. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if Bendis and Oeming hadn't done Powers. And then you got a tie between Mignola and Toth. Sure, both those guys. Yeah. But I wouldn't say that even back then I was studying Alex Toth. I just love a lot of what he does.
Is it Toth or is it Toth?
I don't know. I just had this conversation with, I mispronounce words all the time. And it was just brought up to my attention this morning about how I mispronounce things. So, yeah, I'm going to say Toth. And then after that, it's a bunch of one-hitter quitters. Liefeld, obviously, he's always going to hold a place in my heart. The Pixies, my favorite band of all time, but I don't know how the fuck they influenced how I worked in 2010. Bruce Timm, he's an influence. Yeah, he's just he's not somebody I think about every day. You had Ricky Gervais and Scorsese. Or wait, you had Ricky.
I had Spielberg.
Spielberg. So I had Scorsese.
What's your favorite Scorsese movie?
I don't know. Like, I like the movies no one else likes. I like The Departed and I like Gangs of New York. So I would say Gangs of New York. But obviously he has like Mean Streets and fucking Raging Bull and shit. Lots of great stuff. But I'm talking about like in my generation, shit that I watched new. as it launched, I'm a big fan of Gangs of New York. Um, I put down Dragon Ball Z, again, a callback to my youth. But that goes back to my idea that superhero comics should be huge and big and just giant action, like an Invincible comic or something. So that's the Dragon Ball Z connection. The Wire is still the greatest drama of all time.
Hmm.
Sylvester got a tiny fucking square on this. Like, what am I, a fucking dick face? Jim Lee's not even on here for one thing. And I only give Sylvester a fucking square, along with Okinawa and my dad. Like, I love my dad. I love Okinawa.
It's so sweet.
They should not be on the influence map. Rankin Bass, like I must have just watched like the Tiger Sharks opening on YouTube the day I did this. Like, give me a fucking break. Eric Canetti, fantastic, only getting better. Rico Renzi, fantastic, only getting better. Corey Walker, fantastic, only getting better. So yeah, this was my. I want to be cool, and I want people to comment on how
Sure.
cool I
Yeah,
am.
there's a little
influence
bit of
map.
that. I think half of them I could probably still make an argument for you.
Yeah, when I posted this on our Discord chat, you were like 17 fucking things. Like, you were like, holy shit.
Yeah, the number I think is still pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is nuts. But I will say one or two of these hold up, and more specifically, three of them hold up. As we move into my note after I posted is just ugh. Like, I was so embarrassed because I never, like, if you would have asked me without looking at it, what did I put down in 2012? I would have said Mignola, maybe Toth, and maybe Oming. I don't know what I would have said without looking at it, but let's move forward into the future to Ryan Cody's 2021 influence map. And this immediately,
Joke.
this one to me is immediately abundant where not my work priorities, but where my mental priorities have shifted in the last work and mental priorities have shifted in the last 11 years. Number one for me, which previously was Kirby by a huge margin.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot. Is now my biggest square. What is it? Square gets the circle with Hollywood Square. My biggest Hollywood
Square
Square.
gets the rectangle.
Yes. Yeah. Is Anthony Bourdain. I think in the last 11 years, no one has kind of influenced, not necessarily the way I work, but the way I think more than Bourdain. And maybe I'm a sheep. Maybe I'm just one of these dudes who wants that grass is always greener. You want to do something different. He looks like he had a great life. You know, obviously he was. It wasn't all perfect, but he's an easy number one to have and an easy number one to like. But it doesn't change the fact that when I'm sitting at home and I'm feeling like a little fucking bummed or whatever, or I think about projects I want to do. It's never about what do I want to color, what do I want to draw. It's always where do I want to go. Like this podcast, I've said before. It's not necessarily. Yeah, I would love for it to blow up and get big. I mean, we're 219 episodes in, so we're kind of behind the curve there. But I would love for it to get huge. But also, to me, it's a way to document my life at this point in my life. My friendship with you, my work in comics. It's just a document I can look back on years from now. And I want to document my travel in much the same way. If people enjoy hearing about what I'm doing, great. But if they don't, when I'm 80 or when my kids are 60, they can pull up stuff that I made and they can, it's a diary of who I am, a journal of who I am. And I think Bourdain kind of jump-started that for me. So he's my number one. Yeah, you never really gotten into any of the stuff, I assume.
I haven't, but I mean, just listening to how passionate you are about it all the time, I should just give it. I should give it a look. I should check it out, if for nothing else than just to show you how much I care.
Solidarity. So he had 4 shows: Cook's Tour, No Reservations, The Layover, Parts Unknown is the one he won a bunch of Emmys for and shit. That's the CNN show. But they're all great in different ways. Like, you can see him on Cook's Tour, like not knowing how to be in front of the camera because he wasn't used to that. And then by the time he got to Parts Unknown, he was like just owning shit left and right. But yeah, I recommend the Parts Unknown episode with Josh Homme. Again, a name I mispronounced, Josh Homme or Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age. They go out to California desert and just cook and listen to music and drive fucking muscle cars and shit. It's great. And he went from a cook to a writer to a TV host of cooking shows to essentially a travel journalist who really like won Emmys for some of the work he did in the Middle East and shit. So yeah, great stuff. Number two, showing up for his second appearance. And earlier today, when I was telling Gonzo what we were going to talk about, he said, "Is Mignola still on your list?" And I said, "He is, but he's smaller." And Gonzo goes, "I can't believe that." And now that I look at it, he is twice as big. So I'm an idiot, and Gonzo was right. Mignola comes in at number two, tied with number three. But yeah, Mignola is always going to be. He's the GOAT. He's always going to be. Especially my list is going to play out that line artists are guys who have strong black and white line work.
Yeah.
And he is the number one. I mean, don't get me wrong, Dave Stewart's the GOAT of comic book colorists, but Mignola
Yes.
Mignola black and white is
Black and white graphic comic book line art.
It's-
I think strong is the word. Yeah.
yes, it might be the best. He might be the best at that contrasting shadow line work, whatever. So yeah, Mignola, and like you said, I'm partial to Mignola's earlier stuff. The example I used in my influence map is probably 2015-ish, but yeah, I love his more detailed stuff, but I also love his shoulderless Hellboy for some reason because it shouldn't work and no one questions it when Mike draws it. It just looks perfect.
Great.
If anyone else drew that and it wasn't Mike, you'd be like, "Oh, well, that's fucked up. That's fucking weird. That shouldn't work." But yeah, so Mignola number two, number three, another travel thing, Long Way Round. I've talked about this many times. There's 3 Long Way series between Ewan McGregor and Charlie, and Long Way Up, Long Way Round, Long Way Down, Long Way Up. Again, I've never ridden a motorcycle. Well, I get maybe like once I've ridden a motorcycle, but just the idea of like 2 dudes, and I realize they have a support crew because it's a show, but basically two dudes on motorcycles just doing like, you know, 10,000-mile journeys for months at a time and just camping and just living in it and being in it. It's lovely. It's all on Apple TV Plus. For those of you who have it, I think they now have the exclusive rights, so you can't watch it unless you own the DVDs or have Apple TV. But I love it, and I especially think it's cool because someone like Ewan McGregor could do anything with his money. He doesn't have to do this. He doesn't have to backpack it and rough it going around the world, but he likes to ride motorcycles, and he likes his buddy Charlie. So it's adorable. Their relationship is adorable, for one thing, but just the things they see, and it's just, I love it. It's great. It's another thing I put on along with No Reservations or Parts Unknown. When I'm feeling a little bummed or whatever, I'll watch a couple episodes of those shows and just be like, this is what it's about. Experiencing
Nice.
something new every day. Like, I don't know about you, but like sometimes when I drive to work, I'll take different routes because it's different. Like, I like to have different shit happen every day. I want to see different shit, new stuff to make me think, turn the old noggin on. And I know you've never seen any of these as well.
No, I haven't, but it's nice. I like the influence map so far because it's a map of what's important to you,
Yeah, and it's no secret that this is what I want to do.
which is how I can see your dad in Okinawa on the previous map.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, yeah, I'm a guy who has worked in comics for over a dozen years, who probably should have never worked in comics and probably should have done something else, but I just don't have the brain power. Like, this is part of the thing. Like, if I do a travel show, I'm trying to figure out how do I do it and just to have footage and narrate it, because no one wants to see me on camera. I'm not charismatic. I'm not good on camera, but it's something I want to do. So how do I mix my inability to be charming on film or on camera, on video, with what I'm seeing? So it's going to lean heavily into writing, which is not a forte of mine as well, for anyone who's heard me speak on these podcasts. So moving on to 4 and 5, I really fucked with people's optics here, and I made him 3 squaresers.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of everything's supposed to be even numbered, but I went odd numbered because I'm like, fuck you. So number 4 for me is Frank Miller, who would have shown up on my previous list and wasn't in my original thought for this influence map, except for the fact my current Patreon comic is straight up black and white, no grays, no nothing. And I'm like, well, who did that better than most? Who drew a comic that was never meant to be colored and never meant to have grayscale in it, and it turned out great? And it's Sin City. So specifically, Frank Miller Sin City is why he's on my list of number 4. I see a lot of his influence in like a Chris Somney or somebody like that, like the open line, the negative silhouettes, that kind of shit. I love it. I love it so much. So yeah, whether I purposely channel it, which I sometimes do, or subconsciously channel it, it's always there. Those mid '90s Sin City books.
Yeah.
Did you ever
without Sin City, we wouldn't have Deathblow. So
that's really his biggest contribution to comics, Frank Miller.
when I think Frank Miller, that's what I think.
Yeah, you think Deathblow.
I think Deathblow. 2
weeks in a row that someone with blow at the end of their, or someone with death in their name, sexual death in their name, 2 weeks in a row have made it on the podcast. Deathstroke and Deathblow.
That's right.
Deathblow, stroke, Deathblow, stroke blow, death.
You wouldn't have need for the Deathstroke if you had the Deathblow.
Right, but if I get the Deathblow, I'm gonna have a Deathstroke.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Were you ever into the Sin City books? Did you ever buy those or read those?
I have a handful of them. I didn't read them as they were coming out. I think I picked them up during the era when I was more concerned about the optics of my bookshelf than about what I actually liked.
Yeah. That's why
that's when I picked up,
right,
Watchmen and the Sandman volumes, and
right. That's why I have Mouse on my bookshelf. Jay Gonzo,
all the stuff I fantasized about getting me a nerd ass.
Yeah,
yeah.
You get some chick walking into your apartment, and she sees fucking Justice League the Nail. Alan Davis's Justice League the Nail. She's not
no nailing.
She's dropping no panties, but she walks in and she sees Sin City, the Big Hard Kill, or whatever the fuck it's called. Yeah, you're crushing.
Yeah, I don't know about that bit.
That yellow
maybe
bastard.
High Cost of Living or something.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, something about crushing puss. Call back to episode 100. Number 5 to me, my biggest influence with coloring, more about palette choices, super unique color choices, is Rico Renzi. He was on my previous list. Years before I ever thought I would ever be hired to color a book solely. I was a fan of Rico's, and now I'm even more of a fan of Rico's. He just, especially on stuff where he can really cut loose, like on, I recommend Loose Ends that he did with Chris Bruner and Jason Latour at Image, or Sea of Stars with Stephen Green, Jason Aaron, and Dennis Hallam. Dennis Hallam. But when he can kind of cut loose on an indie book, I think Rico just makes obscene in the best way, obscene color choices. He just can go ham on shit, and it's the best ever, and everything works. Great guy. I mean, I didn't even really know him personally when I put him on my list in 2010, but he's an even better person than he is a colorist, which is impossible. So super big shout out to Rico, and just showing me that there's other ways to do it. There's other ways to be good at what you do, and he's one of the best. So
nice.
Yeah. Number 6, I chose. It's a Lee Weeks drawing, but he's not my number 6. Not because he's not amazing, because I just don't
psych me out.
I don't think about him when I draw, because he's much more realistic than me, and just super, like, he's it's like me, like, picking up a paintbrush and being like, oh, I'm gonna be I'm going to be Norman Rockwell today or something like that. Like, and I've never painted before in my life. That's how much better Lee Weeks is at drawing comics than everyone else. So number 6 for me is Elizabeth Breitweiser. The image I chose is a Batman page of her and Lee Weeks. Elizabeth Breitweiser is one of my favorite colorists. So I think about her when I think about like mood and atmosphere, and not overdoing it, but really just hitting what's important, and not over rendering, and not just sort of doing anything that's flashy. Everything is just sort of there for a purpose, and it works perfectly. Um, yeah, I'm a big fan of hers. On she colors Paul Azaceta on Outcast from Image. Any of her Batman stuff with Lee Weeks. Her and Batman and Tom King and Lee Weeks on a book. Fuck, great Batman book. You kidding me? I mean, they fucking made like a book about Elmer Fudd, one of the best comic books of like 2017. So yeah, she's and she's also super nice. I met her. I showed her some samples of mine maybe in 2010 or 2011 when I thought I was interested in coloring, and she was super friendly and super thoughtful, and uh, just great notes and just fantastic. So yeah, her work is great. Uh, so yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Moving on to number 7, um, Corey fucking Walker, man. I just can't. I just can't quit him no matter what. I can't get enough of him. He to me, he's just so you know, if Mignola is the goat, and Lee and Liefeld and Silvestri stoked fires for me, and they're amazing. Corey Walker is a guy who, I mean, he posts to his blog like once every 2 weeks, and I check his blog like daily to see what little sketch did he put up today. He to me, he's the best. I would read anything he drew. He's just the best, and I don't know. That's my only note. I think my only note is he's just the best. But also like the way he's progressed. I thought he was really good in 2010. I think he's great now. He hasn't lost a step. He hasn't progressed past me. Some artists are technically better artists, but they do nothing for me as they progress. Whereas he, he he's always in my wheelhouse. Everything he does is right there for me. Um, I recommend his later Invincible issues, his Marvel work, and his, of course, Science Dog. Uh, yeah, he drew maybe my 2 or 3 favorite panels in Marvel Comics. Is he did an issue of I think it was either Marvel 2-in-1 or Marvel Team Up, and it was Craven the Hunter and the Rhino and Spider Man. And there's a van, and it's the back end of the van is weighted down, and then you cut to the inside of the van, and it's the Rhino sitting in there with some dudes, and then it cuts to him jumping out of the van, and the panel after he jumps out of the van is just bouncing because of the weight of him. Like it's so great. I mean, it's fantastic. Uh, yeah, anyone who's smart is a Corey Walker fan. Are you fucking kidding me? Uh, you're smart too, because I know you appreciate Corey Walker.
Yeah, I
But you don't you
do.
don't you don't love him the way a lot of us love him. Not that I want you to talk shit. I'm just saying for some of us he really hits a bell. Like he really does
Yeah,
something for
I
some of us.
was not aware of him until you talked about him.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was not anybody that was ever on my radar.
yeah, he's great, great. Number 8. Do you like what I did here with 8 and 9? For anyone looking at the image, get ready
Super
to
clever.
get ready to adjust yourself because it's gonna get stiffy. Number 8 is another guy. So far, I have a habit of people who have strong black and white work, strong spotting backs, blacks, strong figure work. Number 8's no different. Chris Somney. Um, he's a guy I don't necessarily think of, you know, daily or weekly as I work, but I can definitely see his influence seeping into me. And as, if Toth was if Toth was or Toth was an influence in 2010, Somni is the modern day Toth. But I think that might short sell him a little bit. You don't want to compare anyone necessarily to anybody, uh, but I think he just give him any character, give him any book, and he's going to draw it great. He's doing a kids book right now that looks amazing. You know, he's done a crime book in the past. He's done superheroes. He's just he makes everything just look easy. Every line's where it's supposed to be. Um, Never more than what should be there. Just enough. You know, that's It's great. I think I didn't recommend anything. I just said he draws everything perfectly. So check out his Captain America shit. Check out his Daredevil stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. Number 9 is a frequent colorist to Somni, Matt Wilson. And he's a colorist and he compliments pretty much everyone. He's a perfect compliment, I think, to most guys. So uh, some guys look a little weird if they're coloring a different style of artist or whatever, but Matt Wilson, it just works over everybody, and he makes everyone better. Um, I love his color choices. I love his palettes. Everything's a little muted. He doesn't go overboard. Everything, much like I said about Somni, everything's just what it should be, and it all reads correctly. And I recommend picking up anything that he does where he works with Somni or Mahmoud Asrar. They post a lot of he colors a lot of his X-Men covers, I guess Excalibur covers, and Conan work. And I don't really give a shit about Conan, but it makes me want to read a Conan book whenever I see his work over Mahmoud's work.
Yeah, I guess a note about Somni is like it's not, well, maybe it is sort of like a retro
Yeah,
sort of style, but it's better. Like it's hard to describe, but it's like it's throwback without being um of the time. It's like going back to my list, one of the things I was big on in 2010 was the pulp aesthetic, but reading a lot of that stuff is a fucking nightmare because it's all awful. And so I think yeah, just getting the feel for something or sort of engendering the same kind of reaction while keeping it contemporary and relevant and having it be better than what it is it's trying to recall is a tricky thing. I think that's the thing that Somni's lines do. The way he builds stuff is sort of in the same form, but it works today because it's miles better than the stuff that it's sort of homaging.
yeah. There were a lot of guys in like the '80s that were kind of interchangeable that sort of drew in this style. Interchangeable is the wrong way to say that, but like an MD Bright or a Butch Geis or whatever. A lot of those guys drew in a kind of a similar like generic 8 heads tall, yeah, bodybuilder style, but not overly large. Like Somni does that too. He doesn't draw like giant muscle Liefeld characters. When he draws Spider Man, he's always a little wafy and skinny, but it still seems dynamic and powerful.
Yeah, his form is great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's the best traditional comic artist. Like you could put him on a book set in any time period and it would look right. Like he could do New Frontier 2. He could do like a 60s Fantastic Four book, knock your fucking socks off, but he could also do a current book. But he doesn't. He doesn't seem to choose projects or doesn't seem to be put into projects where he has to draw a lot of modern like bullshit costumes and pipings and backgrounds and shit like that. Like he's just an old school comic guy, where you hint at a building, you hint at something like this. You don't have to draw the whole fucking thing and over render it. And he's like he's one of the last holdouts. If he uses like SketchUp or something like that, it's so well done that you would never fucking know.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of guys you could be like, oh, I think that's probably a model they leaned on or something like that. Like with Somni, everything just looks hand drawn like a 60s comic artist would do, and it's great. Yeah, and I think Matt Wilson is his best colorist. So uh, you know so Matt Wilson is my second to last colorist on my list. Number 10 is just a picture of a highway, but it's for me it's like that's that whole aesthetic of what do I think about when I want to cheer myself up or when I like remember when we were getting into comics and we had so many ideas and so many things we wanted to do and they were all exciting. Like, I want to draw this short story. I want to draw this short story. I want to tell a story about this. I want to draw Superman one day. I want to draw fucking Batman one day. I want to do all this. And now at 45, I'm like, I just want to have a week to just go on the road in my car. So that's why number 10 is here. It's just a road trip. Like, that's what I want to do now. Something that doesn't affect anybody but me. But for that week, I'll have a shit-eating grin on my fucking face the whole goddamn time. So yeah, that's what the open road to me is like the siren song that drove people west, that got people exploring. Like, I just want to see something. Like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I want to see something tomorrow that I have never seen. The day after that, I'll see something I'd never seen. And I'm not talking about like we all see trees, but I've never seen that tree, or I've never seen that mountain range, or I've never seen, that roadside stand, or I've never even seen I've never seen that Circle K. That's new. Like something new every day, like something, because you never know what that could bring. You might stop somewhere in fucking BFE, Texas, and have like the best meal you've ever had, or meet the most interesting person you've ever had. That's never going to happen sitting behind a desk drawing comics. So yeah, travel to me is the most important thing. And then number 11, I threw another colorist on this because he's fantastic, Dave McCaig. Right up there with, I think he's often considered maybe right up there with like Dave Stewart. But he doesn't get the same love for whatever reason. But he's a great superhero colorist. Really bright colors, without leaning into the obscene amount of rendering and shit. I think is in most current superhero comics, like house style colors. He doesn't do that. And if you want to see a great mix, you could read Low with Greg Tacchini, Tacchini, Tacchini,
Pacini.
Greg Tacchini. Hey, Greg Tacchini. He didn't. A lot of that Greg colored himself, so I don't know exactly which issues Dave colored on those, but check those out. And also, he did Next Wave with Stuart Immonen, so just fucking some of the best superhero comics ever. And to wrap up, I have 3 holdovers as well: Mignola, Rico, and Corey Walker. I would take those 3. If my influence map had to have 3 comic creators on it, they would be on it. So it's great. It's great. So yeah, my map really showcased what I want to prioritize: travel, journaling, and then black and white art, and just unique color palettes that aren't the same as everything else. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with it. I won't be embarrassed. I won't be embarrassed by this in 10 years. I might be embarrassed by like Long Way Round and maybe no, because if they do another one when they're like in their 60s, it'll be badass. All right, so to wrap up, which on your list do you think might show up again in 10 years from now?
That's a good question.
Because 10 years from now, we might be like killing each other for cans of Spam to stay above the rising tide waters. But let's assume that you were still drawing comics in 10 years. Because this isn't a knock on you, but 10 years ago, you had a heavy Sean Murphy influence.
Sure.
You currently are influenced by John Timms. Do you think your art might progress another way, or do you want it? Do you want it to go?
Possibly. It's hard for me to envision where.
Are you happier with where your art is now than you were 10 years ago?
I suppose. I mean, 10 years ago, I wasn't doing it for a living.
But when you look at when you look at your current stuff, are you more personally pleased with it than you were with
It's probably less flexible. There aren't. I feel like the spectrum of projects that would be appropriate for has narrowed. But other than that, I think I would hope it's objectively better,
Yeah.
As everybody hopes.
I'll go ahead and say, I bet in 10 years, you're more, maybe as you get older, you become more illustrative. So maybe Nolan will continue to have a big influence on you.
I would guess him. I might pick out Spielberg is still being a guy on my list, and I would probably have to say Mignola.
Yeah, that'll
I
never.
think he's gonna stick around for everybody forever.
Early 90s Mignola is never going anywhere as far as the GOAT. Yeah, I think mine's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to become more of a colorist, like maybe like Elizabeth Breitweiser with some color pops like Rico. Like that would be a perfect career path for me. Uh, but I wonder if there's a part of me that, not to get hashtag too real, I wonder if there's a part of me that in 10 years will be bummed if I'm still just drawing comics and not traveling more and sort of figuring out a way to monetize that. Right. Whether it's however it is, whether it's, I don't know, teaching classes or whatever. Like, I feel like I'd be happier traveling. But I would definitely be happier being a full time colorist than I would doing line art. That shit's for the birds. Save that for your Godleskis and your Corey Walkers and your Ryan Otleys. Give me the crayons. Yeah, I'm into that. All right, man. Any final notes? Do you want to go into our beer ratings?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'll go first here.
Yeah.
It was fine. I wonder why this is my wife's favorite beer. This must have been her favorite beer before hazies were discovered. Could you give me an 8% hazy IPA and it's better? But this is totally fine. I enjoyed it. It went down super fucking easy. I would say IPA. I expect something stronger, something a little meatier, something's going to fight back. So I'll give it a 3.5 for the Ballast Point Grapefruit Sculpin, which, by the way, is way too expensive. These 6-packs are like fucking $12. Like, come on, get a grip, people. It's just a beer.
My Helton Brewing Boysenberry Sour. It was, for a sour, I think it was above average, I would imagine. 3.5, maybe. Again, like yours, it was pretty easy drinking. It was inoffensive. It wasn't overly tart. It never made my face look like an asshole. So, yeah, 3.5.
Bitter beer face.
Right.
Yeah. What's a boysenberry taste like, anyways? It's like a
I don't know what a boysenberry is.
It's like a blackberry raspberry.
Sure. I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea what part of the country it comes from. I've never had a boysenberry. If it's even a thing.
I assume it's a thing. I don't know. Your background right now just makes me think of that great Mr. Majestic number one that Ed McGuinness and I want to say Dexter Vines drew. One of the best single comics of all time. Joe Kelly, Ed McGuinness, Mr. Majestic number one. He rearranges the goddamn solar system. Mr. Majestic does. Get on that shit.
Cool.
Yeah. Speaking of getting on shit, Scott, send us on our way. Get on our shit.
Yeah. Be good to yourselves and others.
Yes.
And everything. Just be good.
Be good. And take some time to make your own influence map to find out.
Oh, yeah.
How to better yourself.
Tweet at us.
Think consciously about your creative passions.
Yeah, but don't.
Tweet at Scott at ScottyGod.